In the early stages, as the scope of the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan became plain, the media allies of the Biden administration covered it thoroughly and well. None better than CNN reporter Clarissa Ward, whose calm, descriptive reports belied the imminent danger all around her.
Let me try to explain to you the situation where we are. It's very hectic. You can probably hear those gunshots. We're about 200 yards, even less than 200 yards away from the entrance to the Kabul airport. There are Taliban fighters all around. We actually did see them physically with truncheons trying to get them back. We have seen them and heard them a lot as well, firing on the crowds to disperse the crowds.
But as the August 31st deadline approaches and tensions reach a desperate crescendo, the coverage and criticism of the administration's botched exit plan is at times moderating. Less attention paid to tweets like this, quote, Taliban has now blocked all roads leading to Kabul airport. Taliban fighters acting extremely aggressive, locals say. No Afghans allowed through unless accompanied by foreigners. Instead, a defense of the president and his strategy is beginning to emerge.
And given that we were told that the target number of people to be evacuated was about 80,000, that sure sounds like they are on target. They're on track, it seems, to make it by the one-week deadline. So where is the pressure coming from to keep troops in longer?
The further we get away from those chaotic pictures, the more you're hearing 70,000 are airlifted out, 100,000 are airlifted out. And the further we get away from this story, I suspect that is not going to be an issue that's going to be driving any voters in 2022, or very few voters, perhaps some veterans, rightly angry and upset, that may influence their votes. But at the end of the day, Joe Biden did what 75% of Americans wanted him to do.
On Wednesday, August 25th, the Drudge report, now drifting leftward, completely ignored the crisis in Afghanistan in its headline, prompting one observer to tweet, Drudge decides there's other really big news besides world on edge. Networks and progressive cable stations are downplaying, sometimes ignoring polls that show the Biden presidency in free fall. A USA Today Suffolk poll has Biden's approval rate at 41%, disapproval at 55%, a minus 14. While Meet the Press's Chuck Todd reported those numbers last Sunday, neither Monday's Today Show nor the NBC Nightly News followed up.
See, when a poll verifies or affirms something that a network wants to say, then they'll use it. But sadly, when a poll result comes out in a disagreeable way, often what happens is, did we do that poll? You know, it just doesn't seem to matter.
There are many exceptions. The Associated Press's Matt Lee, known for dogged reporting, grilled Secretary of State Antony Blinken at Wednesday's press conference, targeting the administration's penchant for blaming the previous administration for the Afghanistan debacle.
It's been 5 months since the president's decision was made. Is there anything about the shortcomings that have been so readily identified by all sorts of people that you guys are actually willing to take responsibility for yourselves?
Acutely aware of the intense scrutiny of media, of bad polls, of lost lives, and the judgment of history, the Secretary of State at one point turned away from the hard numbers of charter flights and airlifts to emote about the unfolding human tragedy.
I read the report of the Afghan translator whose 2-year-old daughter was trampled to death on Saturday while waiting outside the airport. I've got 2 small kids of my own. Reading that story and others was like getting punched in the gut. All of us at the State Department and across the U.S. government feel that way. We know that lives and futures, starting with our fellow citizens, including the lives of children, hang in the balance during these critical days.
It may be a necessary reality that focus on Afghanistan wanes over time. Other crises are happening. Bigger catastrophes may await. That is the nature of news in a constantly changing world. But news consumers are capable of distinguishing between that and the intentional protection of a president by a biased media. The days leading up to August 31st will be a test of a responsible press. Doug McKelway for the Washington Examiner.